Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Spurs Chemo, Flatsoid and Chocolate Sayin. Very good to have you all.
Good morning.
Good morning. We've also got Travis and Right the Hand. Very good to have you both as well.
Hello. Have we missed housekeeping, Nathan?
No, literally just started. Hello, Sleeping Warrior. I just want to check that we can hear Right the Hand in Discord. Can you hear us, Right the Hand? Presumably you can hear us.
Hello, sorry. Hello.
Hello, Spurs. Right, I've got nothing coming our way from Right the Hand. Hopefully we haven't got any issues with Discord, but we'll find out later. He's still on mute, so presumably he's away from his keyboard. Nevertheless, any signs of Earth curvature?
Yes.
Ooh, happy days.
Do you know what, Nathan? I went to watch the homecoming from Liverpool at the weekend yesterday, and I was watching the team bring the trophy back because it happens it's a bit like an eclipse. It happens every now and again, where it passes right close to your town. And when as the people started gathering and it got more and more compact, it became apparent that I couldn't see as far as what I could when there were no people there. And obviously all their head heights are all about the same as mine. You've got a couple of random ones that are a little bit taller in the way, but you can't see as far. And what I noticed was people started to climb buildings and get on top of lampposts and traffic signals just to be able to see further, because you were able to see further, but now you can't. And it just reminded me that this is like the waves. And I've now got obstruction at eye level, which is just like being close to the water. And I realized that because I couldn't see any further and I had to gain elevation to see further, that's the kind of obstruction that ball earthers would call is curvature. And what I realized was actually perspective, because I'm at the same height as the waves. And ballers just refuse to accept and acknowledge that this might be explained in full by perspective. But if there's curvature, it would need to be explained in full with perspective and curvature taken into consideration, which is why they've hijacked the curvature calculators. And on that point, there's another change to the curve calculators. We mentioned last week that Mick West had changed the curve calculator. He put in a line that said, and this is just nonsense, but Dr. John D sent me a message, and the line that was in red last week has changed this week. The message last week said, note, not accurate for horizon grazing observations over water, right? Whatever horizon grazing observations over water means, it implies that there's some kind of fodder. I don't know what horizon grazing observations are, but now it reads, note, not accurate for observations over water very close to the horizon. Well, he's got this standard refraction adjustment with this disclaimer that basically means that the standard refraction adjustment is not accurate or useful in any application whatsoever, and we shouldn't be using it because it's not accurate. So we should revert back to the geometric calculations that don't include standard refraction, because we know that this standard refraction is not accurate for observations over water very close to the horizon.
What's
Thanks
the horizon?
For that, Mick West.
Does he have a little asterisk next to the word horizon defining what that means?
Nobody should do, shouldn't he?
Well, yeah, given that it's an arbitrary imaginary position where the sky meets the ground, when in reality the sky doesn't meet the ground. That's for any normal person looking out into the distance. For a fundy zealot globehead, it's the leading edge of their sphere Earth they believe they live on. So it'd be interesting that he's saying that you can't measure the claimed obstruction of a sphere Earth, which is the horizon in their world. Very interesting. I'd like to know what horizon means to Mick West.
Yeah.
So Riley, you're saying there were you couldn't see at your stadium not due to curvature, right? There wasn't any curvature at your stadium.
Correct.
That's what
It
you're
wasn't
saying?
at the stadium, it was in the streets. It was like there was just thousands and thousands of people all squashed onto the streets. And I realized I couldn't see where I could previously see before. And I realized that, do you know what? It's the same kind of obstruction that the ball earthers claim is curvature. When you get too low, and you've got obstructions in your foreground, like waves. I mean, obviously the waves are not right in your foreground, but they do go further back, and then it becomes your horizon.
But that's
those
technically
waves
not.
are an issue.
But
Got to get my
Riley,
phone one sec.
right, I want to correct you on that. That's technically not obstruction, because that would suggest that something is physically in between the observer and the object being concealed. In actuality, it is concealment, a natural concealment effect when looking past a flat plane. That's not entirely 100% clear what causes it, but it is absolutely there every time. So, concealment.
In the definition of concealment, it says the action of hiding something or preventing it from being known. Well, if you're hiding something, isn't that by implication the same as obstructing? In their definition, wouldn't you say that given their reification of a globe model that does actually obscure the thing in the distance, that obstruction for them is reasonable? For us, totally unreasonable. I agree with your point entirely.
No, concealment can just be it's taken away in some way. It's specifically taking it away, concealing it. Obstructing is very much obvious that there is something in the way.
Oh, there is actually a slight... There's an expansion underneath. It says something that acts as a hiding place, cover. Well, yeah, the limitation of an angular... an ability to resolve a given angle would act as though it's hiding something else. So actually concealment's the perfect word. I take it all back.
Yay! Yeah, it took some getting used to, but it is significant because there are obstructing effects, like the tidal bulge, which Ranty's been so elaborate on, that's really there. So can be real physical obstruction, but there's always the concealment effect.
I understand.
That's
So what
always
you're saying is the diffraction limit is a concealment of the lowest angle. However, the tidal bulge and waves is an obstruction of the thing in the distance. So there are two things at play. One is concealment due to limitation of angle. The other is obstruction due to something in the near foreground being bigger in angular size at a closer range.
Right. Although, look, there's this thing about this limited viewing angle. I'm not entirely sure that is the full scope of the effect.
It isn't. You're right. It's one part. When they say...
It's kind of one explanation that works really well, but it is obviously just a part of something bigger that's going on.
Correct. Well, when... the only time that I know of that's had it applicable to only apply the Rayleigh criterion was when Red Pill Philosophy did an observation on just basically a perfect day. Crystal clear, no movement in the water, and the same temperature of water and air. Just great, perfect conditions. And he saw what seemed like forever, but it still had the exact same effects you would have due to the limitation of your angle. That will always be in play. But in that instance, Life is Short didn't do he didn't need to do any further calculations. He could work out that there was still a limitation of the angle. But that's on a perfect day. So in most instances, absolutely, Arwin, it's one of many things. So when the Globeheads say to us, what's the excuse today? And they reel off a whole great big long list. In reality, that long list is all applicable in some capacity at some stage. You just figure out what actually is at play and then apply what is appropriate. In their world, the sphere world, every single obstruction ever is caused by Earth curve. There's only one assertion their calculations make. Earth curve! So it doesn't matter what's at play. And even when they say it's taking into account the atmospheric refraction, no, it isn't. It's taking into account terrestrial refraction, which is 7 over 6r, a number and a begging the question fallacy. So all they ever do is assume r, curve, that's the cause, curve. So they've assumed their outcome, it's a begging the question fallacy, and it's the only asserted cause of anything disappearing into the distance ever. Earth curve, doesn't matter what it is. But yeah, to back your point, yeah, it's not the sole cause. Quite frequently, it's probably the least to be taken into consideration. In the effective perspective, it's the arbiter of it. Everything gets smaller with distance, and there will be a limitation of angle as you push things further away. It's just a simple fact until it reaches the diffraction limit. But there's obviously things that you can see that aren't in the diffraction limit, therefore not applicable, right? Well, that's most of the time, if you can see something.
Well, there is something even more weird to it. And then it's like the zooming in on something in a very far distance. Because basically what the diffraction limit points at, what it comes down to, is resolution limit. But when you zoom in, something weird happens. It's almost like, yeah, the effect happens, but instead of literally the pixels, it's like regions are being like compacted in its entirety. So it's not like pixelar compaction, but like entire blocks with that can be seen in much more detail. Those are being compacted in its entirety, and I can't really explain that.
But you don't need to. I can give you something to
What's
search.
going on at that? But that is
can.
really how it's like. It seems like a pixel issue, but because of the zoom, somehow it entails much bigger regions with visuals.
So go to just Google search Aries discs and just have a look. And it's describing it in minutiae. Just Aries discs. Check it out. Pictorial examples of what you're describing. Perfect. It's what you need. Aries discs. Check it out.
Yeah, I do remember it, but yeah.
Any other bits?
It's very surreal.
Any other signs of curvature? Should we move on? 10 minutes on one.
We're still housekeeping.
Yeah, that was the first question.
Oh, okay. Signs of curvature.
That's what we've just been talking about.
No, it's very hard to see signs of curvature except for when it's confirmed like a hill. Because, yeah, if you assume that things being obstructed in distance due to curvature, because it has to be, that just doesn't make any sense, because you get the same effect on confirmed flat surfaces. So
I'm glad you added the conclusion. Right, exactly. So you can replicate this all on flat surfaces, and the maths for the Rayleigh criterion is ignored when you assert that Earth curve is the obstruction. Nevertheless, let's move on. Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No.
Panel. Keen panel.
Nope.
No.
Mumble.
No.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
Gravity. Scientific evidence thereof.
Should that even be a question now, Nathan? If it's not a force?
If you want to claim gravity, which people will continue to do so, then provide us with scientific evidence for it.
Gravity is a conceptual framework based on the misinterpretation of aberrations within nature.
Watch this, Spurs. Is that scientific evidence, Arwin?
No.
Excellent.
As I said, it's a conceptual framework. It doesn't fall into the array of science.
Now he immediately reverted to repeating his assertion. So not scientific evidence then?
Nope.
Just try and remember that term, Spurs. There is no scientific evidence for gravity. End of statement.
Right. But you do know the born earthers do say it's not needed. This method, that we follow.
Yeah, they don't need it.
What do you mean? How can they not need it?
Needed for what?
They got their story time. They don't need it anymore. Let me just get some
clarity from Spurs. Needed for what? It's not needed for what? It has a specific purpose.
No, I know, but they're saying that what are they doing? They say they can measure it. There's something they can measure, right?
You're going off track and telling me about what they do with gravity. You've made
no. Hold on. So we're looking for science for gravity, but is science needed for gravity?
You're trying to immediately invoke a cause. So yeah, what causes the mic to drop? You say, deGrasse Tyson. Gravity causes it, does it? Oh, that's interesting. We have a very firmly established method, Mr. Pseudoscience, for establishing cause. You know what that method's called? the scientific method. It establishes the cause of an effect. So immediately they invoke a cause, don't they, Spurs? So I'm going to demand scientific evidence if they're going to assert a cause.
No, how to say? Well, I mean, I'm not arguing from the science perspective. They're saying that there's this thing that uses measurements. So they're measuring the speed. They're measuring the effects of something. Now, I think how they understand science is science needed for this effect?
It is if you're going to claim
It's needed.
There is no measurement.
It's
You
needed.
can't measure
Hold on.
gravity. You can only deduce
Look, hold on.
natural
It's hard
world.
for
And
Spurs,
yes,
right?
yes.
Spurs doesn't take this position, and he's trying to paraphrase the doublespeak he's been fed in opposition to this. Just give him a chance to get it out.
It's very difficult.
Exactly, it's very hard. That's why
No
I'm trying to stop
mercy.
everyone. That's why I'm trying to stop him from rumpusing you, because you're trying to paraphrase the doublespeak as you've understood it when it's not understandable in the first instance. But yeah, try.
Yeah, but
try
look,
and-
I mean, look. Okay, so there are many methods. Yes, there's not just the one method to know something. Okay, if I want to know how tall I am, Nathan, do I need science? If I want to know my shoe size, Nathan, do I need science? No. So to know things, yes, science is not always needed. I think this is what they mean. So when gravity, or they say gravity, or whatever you call it, they're saying that they.
Hold on. Stop a second. I just want to take one claim at a time. So you've said that you don't need science to, well, let's paraphrase, measure something. So, Spurs, let's run a tape measure down our shoes. And given that, what do you put? Don't say the word, but we're going to both have the same measurement. We're just going to know telepathically now that given that shoes go on a certain body part, how big we're both going to say our shoe size is. Okay? So, what's your shoe size?
Yeah, let's just go with my height. Let's just say 6
no.
foot, yeah?
You've said you don't need science to measure something. And now I'm taking you by the hand and going, okay, let's measure something. So, we're going to do that first to establish a baseline. Make it sound scientific. Yeah? So, you're going to measure your shoe, and it's on a particular body part. There's a clue to what I'm hoping you'll say.
Yeah, a foot. Yeah.
Oh, it's 1 foot, you say.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
1 foot.
Oh, well, that doesn't match my measurement. Mine's in centimetres. That's a bit of a problem, isn't it? So we have these two arbitrary numbering systems applied to this concept that we're going to apply, and we've got it wrong already. That doesn't sound very empirical, these arbitrary concepts that we've applied to numbers that we've given to concepts. Does it, Spurs?
No. I agree, yeah.
Science, on the other hand, Spurs, definitively establishes cause and effect relationships by invalidating a null hypothesis when you confirm an alternative, validating the cause. So unlike these arbitrary concepts that we can apply to things when we run bits of string and metal up our feet, science, on the other hand, is an empirical method. Very useful if you want to absolutely assert you have a cause of something. And in the case of gravity, they are invoking a cause. Not a measurement, a cause.
I know what you're saying. Okay, let's try to look at it another way. Okay, so let's say we have a body. Now, if we don't know the cause of death, but the coroner or somebody will still be able to do their job on that body, even though they don't know the cause of death. Or they should be able to, repair the body, or as long as they know about bodies or something like this. So as long as you know about forces, I would say. Or
Right,
they might say.
what you're saying is someone dies, you don't know the cause. Can you then look at the body and figure out what's going on? Well, let's say they died of type 2 diabetes. Do you think poking around and cutting up the kidneys is going to tell you that cause, being insulin insufficiency, would be established through cutting and scraping and looking? What do you think? Or do you think varying hold on. Or do you think maybe varying and manipulating a presumed cause and effect, insulin in this case, might give you a definitive cause of an effect.
No, but I'm saying if the person's not looking for the cause, like their job is not to look for the cause of death, they have another job. They deal with bodies, dead bodies, but they don't look for the cause. They have another job because they know
do.
anatomy.
That's precisely what a coroner does. At the end of his job, he writes down cause of death.
No, I know. I'm just trying to think of where someone would they don't need to know the cause, but they can still operate in their field. So they don't need the cause of something, but they can still work.
Okay.
And I think this is how they see it. They're saying that we understand forces or something, so we work with forces, and so we don't need to know the cause of this force. Just bring us the force.
Who are they talking about? Who is working? I mean, in terms of this force and where it's applicable, we're talking about astrophysicists, aren't we? Bending of space-time, right? Yeah. Well, this is astrophysicists' realm. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So when they tell you that they are working with forces of the universe, they're not varying and manipulating anything. But they claim to be science, don't they, Spurs?
Yeah, but I think now they're backing away from that. I think now they're realizing, okay, so we're not scientists. We are.
So, oh, no worries. They definitely say they're science, though, don't they?
Yeah.
The ones who say
I think
this.
that's changing, though. That's changing.
Let me give you a quote. Science is right whether you like it or not. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Astrophysicist who tells you what the world is, and in this instance, is the arbiter of gravitational attraction, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so we've got people claiming that they're science, who are absolutely not science. That sits them in one category. Pseudoscience. So pseudoscience says we've got a conceptual medium, space-time. You want to show me that, globeheads? And apparently we can bend said conceptual medium. So if I'm going to accept that, I'm going to want to see it.
Yeah, but again, I'm just trying to look at how they would be looking at it, and I think science has been thrown around so much that everybody seems to think that they're a scientist. But now, I think they're more into mathematics. So, is mathematics science? No. So, I think that they think we have the numbers, the equations work. So, for example, I don't know if it's housekeeping. I asked you before about the distance to the moon. So distance to the moon is not science in their mind. This is how I was described, that they have the distance to the moon. So one guy takes a photograph of the moon, and then they have another observer who takes another photograph of the moon, and then they calculate the distance between the two observers, and then they would calculate the height, triangulate, make triangle and things like that, and figure out the height. Now, is that science? That's not science, is it? So their model, I think, is not one of science. Everything in the model is not of science. I know you're saying it is, but I think now we're talking about it, I think they're realizing it's not science, it's math, it's maths. So things like gravity.
What model, Spurs?
They can say gravity is not a force because the equations tell them this. So I don't, So I don't know. Do you understand what I mean here? They are realizing they don't have science. It's not science. It's more mathematical.
I couldn't care less. If they're going to assert a cause, they better prove it with science, especially when they claim to be scientists, Spurs. And the fact remains that they can't. That's all there is to it. Now, if you want to dance around that for eternity, because you can't prove causation, but you definitely want to assert it, then that's your problem, not yours, Spurs. You understand?
Yeah.
That's not your problem, mate. Just say, okay, well, you can keep your maths. If I've got 5 ice creams, right, Anthony?
Yeah, I was. You know what? In the context of Newtonian principles for gravity and how Einstein superseded it, and the ballers say, well, just because he superseded it doesn't mean that you dismiss one with the other. And some dopey good bugger called Sean Hawkins said, "Yeah, power steering didn't replace steering; it added to it." Let's put the context into perspective here. 2 + 2 = 4, but 1 + 3 also equals 4. If 1 + 3 = 4 replaced 2 + 2 = 4, just because the maths works out for the other one doesn't mean that it's the same. So even though the maths works out, it's been superseded. So 2 + 2 used to equal 4, but we don't use it anymore. We now use 1 + 3 = 4 instead. You can't use 2 + 2 anymore. So you can't use Newtonian. That means you can't have the force. It's not the same as saying power steering, refined steering, because that would mean using the two of them together. So let's not do that. Let's do what science says and replace, supersede, swap. Let's not refine, support, encourage. It's not the same kind of words. Let's get these meanings of words right, because you ballers are being dishonest.
But Anthony, they want to know, okay, these numbers, these equations work with buildings, bridges, anything they want to design. They say it works. So they want to know, well, why can't this work with other celestial bodies or anything that's in the sky? They're saying it works here on Earth, but you're saying that we can't use it out there. But that's the problem, I think.
All right, so false equivalence. Yeah, we've got pseudo-Riemannian 4-space, length, breadth, depth and time, and Euclidean 3-space. They're not mathematically derived from one another. They're entirely different mathematical structures. So no, it's not like adding a electronic motor to a steering column to make it more assisted. That would be adding to. Yes, that's a good example of adding to. However, the automatic choke absolutely superseded the manual choke, didn't it? We don't have manual chokes because they've been superseded. There's not an additional pulley choke thing in modern cars because it just added to the pulley manual choke that you had to yank out when your car was cold. No. It superseded it.
Yeah.
So clearly, yeah, this man has absolutely no idea about cars.
No, I think that there's two.
No, nobody laughed. Oh well.
No, I think there's two understandings that are being. They've confused them, and then now we're confusing them by. I don't know, because if we label them scientists, or they have science, then they still think they have science. Like we would say, well, why discuss Narnia if it doesn't even exist? So we're labeling them something when they're not even scientists. They're not even proposing to do science. Trying to get them to find the cause of something is never going to happen. So for me, this is not science. So this is what I'm trying to say. Is it even a question of science now? They understand it through mathematics. So their model works through mathematics.
Doesn't matter.
So they can't get away from that. When they ask us to debunk the model, okay, what I'm understanding is that they want an equation. They want an equation for that refutes their model. You see?
Crap what they want. Who cares? They're the ones making the assertion, Spurs. Number one, what model are they showing you when they're asking you to debunk a model, a reification fallacy of the world we live in, with an equation? Do you want to explain that to me? What are they showing you?
They're showing me mathematics.
No, that's not. Well, is that a model? Do we live in a mathematical formula? What kind of world do you live in? I'm talking about the physical and natural world. That falls into science. Natural science, it's called. Look it up. Right.
I agree, but I'm saying
look at the definition of mathematics and see if it involves anything to do with the physical and natural world. Then type in physical and natural world and see what comes up. And I assure you, it won't be mathematics. It'll be science. Hey,
how do you
Warren,
how do you tell them that though? This is what I'm trying to say.
It doesn't matter if you're trying to deal with brain dead lost souls with a religious belief, Spurs. That's not your problem.
It's not. It's traumatic. It's hard. I mean, we've got to see that these people have been lied to from
these
the
poor
day they were
people.
born.
Yeah, Mr. Therapist.
From the
my
day
heart
they were
goes
born,
out.
they had no chance.
Hold on,
Get it,
Spurs.
Mr. Therapist, but you're too soon.
We all need to get a candle and light it right now for our lost brother, Curved Water. Kumbaya, my lord.
innocent. They were innocent.
Kumbaya.
They were
Oh,
snatched away.
Lord.
Okay,
Radius
Kumbaya.
Sanctus
Why
Spiritus
aren't you
Nomen.
joining me in vigil for our lost brother, Curved Water? No?
Well, I think they're on the return because, like I said, a lot of them are on 99%, which for me is a tremendous leap. Okay, for people who knew 100% that they were on a spinning board, we whittle them down. Okay, now and again, like I say, this question of science.
Hold on, I've got a new guest. Hello, Elia? Is that how you say your name?
Elijah?
Elijah.
Elijah?
Elijah,
My
oh
bad.
my God. Hello.
Hello, warm welcome to you. Good intro.
Thank you.
So where are you at? Where are you
So
at?
what have you heard that
Elijah?
you didn't like, Elijah?
Say again.
Have you heard anything that you didn't like, or have you heard that you agree with?
I literally woke up like I probably opened my eyes 2 minutes ago and I said, oh shit. Oh, excuse my cursing. I said, Nathan Oakley's on. I've been trying to get on this show for maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 months since I've been watching. And so I'm a huge fan. But you guys can carry on. I literally just woke up and I literally tried joining because I got a new phone and I was like, maybe that's what it is. And it was. So here I am.
Excellent. Very pleased to have
Welcome
you.
to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So, yeah, I suppose this isn't your issue. You know, if you're dealing with fundies, just have to accept that they're going to remain fundies.
Fundies shall be fundies.
What's up, Elijah?
Where there's will, where there's
What's up,
will.
Chocolate?
Sorry, go ahead.
Nah, chilling, man. Just want to welcome you. See
Thank
in the
you.
chat. Yep.
Yeah, I've been trying. It's funny. I mean, I've been hit up by a couple people too. Ran into Mick West. I've been Globe explained by Walter Bislin. I've been in a few flat Earth groups. So yeah, man, things seem to really be shifting in terms of how the conversations are going on. I know that everything that Spurs is talking about right now, that's where everyone's at. I know Anthony was at the same place too. Like we're all really frustrated with trying to understand and figure out why globe earthers don't understand what we're seeing. And I really got to a point where I had to step back and wonder why I was getting all that energy. And I realized that when I talk to them differently, they accept the information differently. They really do. But
No,
Honest,
you got to give us more than that. Hold on.
I haven't found that they accept it at all. I mean, I've had it literally in their face where it's...
We've got to get some more info than that. How did you change the presentation of your information to get them to, I don't know, if you're going to say they accepted it, we'll find out, I guess.
Sure. Okay, so first of all, I'm pretty much cut and dry. So when I saw this show, I was like, yeah, truth is truth. I don't care, how you feel. This is what it is. Accept it. People, they'll go down fighting if you come at them like that. But I've had guys like, start with the ad hom attacks, and I've just stuck to just speaking as humbly as I can. And the other globe earthers will see that interaction and then they'll say, well, that's really ridiculous. And so a lot of them are saying, Elijah's the only flat earther that seems like he's smart. I don't know why he's a flat earther, but he seems very smart. He doesn't get into confrontations with everybody. And just seeing that, it's like, wow, and then they just had a post the other day, and it's like 4 or 5 of them that tagged me for asking, have you noticed that there are any, downright good flat earthers? And that post was like kind of centered around me. So I'm like, this really is making some kind of difference. It's not going to change the people that I think Spurs wants to change. Sorry to throw you in there like that, but there's a certain kind of person like Craig. They don't want to see it. You can't change those people. It's the people that see your interactions with people like Greg that will make the difference.
Well said. Yeah, the zealots, we can't change them. Their mind is made up. Their path is set. But the general public, yeah, they could be all over the place. And by setting the right example, that we can be very critically thinking and very honorable and persevere under great pressure and great, yeah, just maniacal behavior and crazy stuff. And we sometimes let ourselves go at times because we're only human. We can only take so much at times. But by giving an example of how to be a decent human being and still entertain flat Earth and go with that,
Yeah.
that's how we really get the doubters, the side standers
Well, you know,
over the line.
We
And
as
that's important
Mhm.
because now the Globers are using the majority.
Hey, physics.
Yeah, so
Hi, Nick.
we as a flat earthers have still got a lot to discover. Our heads will still be blown just as much as when we first discovered the flat Earth. We have a dome, a possible dome to discover. Some believe there's no dome. Some believe there is a dome. There's a wall to discover. So if we see a dome, we still have to get our heads around the wall, what's over the wall, how it works, how all of these things. So this is we will still be experiencing a particular type of trauma as flat earthers because we still have to accept. Well, if there is a dome, well, what's above the dome? If there is something, if there is a container, what's beyond that? And well, how does it work? We still have those questions. So the ball earthers, the most hard-headed ones are going to be traumatized the most. So I think a lot of work needs to be done with these people. I don't think they're just lying. I think that they're indoctrinated. That's the difference.
Well, that's why
it takes an immense amount of patience because Arwen was very right the other day when you guys were like 5 + 5 is 20 to globe earthers. So you kind of have to give them 15 and then walk them back to 12 and then 10. Because, for instance, like when it was maybe a month ago when I came out to like, I would call it a normie group, like people that don't really discuss what the shape of the earth is at all. And I was like, guys, space is fake. And I got to that conclusion from listening to you guys. I was already there, but I wasn't ready to just jump out and, be like, hey, I'm a flat earther, F your religion, until I started listening to this show. So it's just, when I said space is fake, even though I know what I mean, that's like a real nuke to someone who's never thought about it before. You kind of can't approach it like that, even though it's true.
It sounds insane to somebody who takes it for granted all their life. If you just bluntly hit them over the head with it.
Well, you get them to answer the question. That's why we have housekeeping. Hopefully people will adopt these questions. So yesterday when YouTube messed up, I went to live streams to see if anybody was live streaming. It was just me with an issue, and there's Simon Dan, who typically I don't watch, but it was more an excuse for this. Is because I was testing to see if YouTube worked. And I go in, and I kid you not, within about 25 seconds of being in there, typing in the chat, by the time I'd finished typing the sentence, does this chat feed work? Do you have problems with YouTube? My name mentioned. And the reason it got mentioned, mine and Quantum Eraser's name, was because they were talking about, hey, right the hand, they were talking about gas pressure without a container, one of the housekeeping questions. So Nathan Thompson had presumably, just before I tuned in, asked that question, and it's put them right out of, put Conspiracy Cat's nose right out of joint. Because unfortunately, I don't know, because I tuned out very rapidly afterwards when I found out it was broken, but could have just quoted Conspiracy Cats himself. Without the container, there can be no pressure. But there's a reason for the phraseology of the questions that are asked during housekeeping, which is to say, is there any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container? And if you put that to a globe head, and then they come to the conclusion with a few examples of, I don't know, a gas canister or shaving foam can or whatever you like, a tyre, they go, no, well, of course, you've got to have something to press on. You can't have tyre pressure without a tyre. Oh, right. Then you stare at the sky very casually and go, oh, yeah, so that's a vacuum, eh? and hopefully the penny will drop for them of their own volition. Same with any
Right,
of the housekeeping.
this is what I don't
questions.
understand now. Then, so I'm trying to understand something. So, what's the idea? Are we saying that we speak to a ball earther, he doesn't agree, we leave him alone, we go to the next one, he doesn't agree, he agrees. So, is the mindset that there will be 50-50? Do we think that we'll get
the point was you have to build up to it.
Hold on, Arwin. Let him get to the end of his.
Hold on.
At least let him get to the end of his question.
Just want to get a point across. So I'm trying to think of like the idea. So if I'm sitting there with Ball Earther trying to convince them of something that you think they'll never believe or come around to. So what's the idea? Is the idea that we'll get half the population, we'll get a good 50, 60, 70% of the people, or do we just do we stay in one place repeating we've been lied to, this is why, or you should come forward? So again, if the ball earthers don't come forward and then they just stay in their position, is the idea just leave them to their? I don't seem to understand. With the idea, I thought was to
Leave
expose.
them to it. So long as
You can't convince somebody who does not want to be convinced.
If they have a belief, you're saying, are we trying to convince them to believe? No. Believe whatever you like. Don't care. If you want to believe that Santa Claus is real, you believe it. It's all more power to you. If you want to believe that you live on a spinning ball for reasons, then you're more power to you. You can believe whatever you like. It's not for us to stop people in their beliefs. But you can point out some of the obvious things that we don't believe in. We're talking about laws of nature when we talk about entropy. So it's not a belief I hold that gas pressure needs something to press on. That's a fact of life. Now, you don't have to like that if you've got a fundamentalist belief in a sky vacuum that NASA call outer space. That's your problem.
Yeah, but how does that help us? How does that help society? How does it help us move forward? If one or two of us have to believe, let's say there's 1 million flat earthers, and we stay with this mindset, and the rest of the world carries on saying, well, we just refuse to believe. We want to have this belief, and we're just going to go with it.
Again, talking about belief.
No, but the point is that you're saying that if people just want to carry on with their beliefs, like let them have their beliefs.
Yes.
And I'm saying the point is no. The point is not to let people have these beliefs.
Oh, so
excuse me.
One second.
Hold on.
It's just
that's crazy. That's crazy. That's
persecution.
Right?
Well, Spurs, look. Here's the thing.
You can't force people's beliefs, Spurskimo.
But why would we tell people if we're not interested in changing the way people see the world? Right?
The truth is
Spurs.
Let me just get this out.
We're not addressing that group.
Look, everyone's decided that they're going to answer Spurs. Can I just have a two-way conversation with Spurs? Because otherwise there's 5 people trying to answer him. Spurs, the truth is the truth. Now, whether or not you believe something different is your problem. How does it help us? What, flat earthers? Well, we can, for the people who want to accept the truth, reality, then they will. But for those who don't, those are the ones you're concerned with exclusively. That, my friend, is actually your Spurs' problem.
Well, I don't see why we're planting seeds then, because we already know how people feel about the shape of the earth, and they decided to go with the consensus because it's safer.
Now you've used the word feel. I don't care how they feel about it. Now, I understand, Elijah and yourself, if you take a different approach and say, I want to spare these people their feelings. It's very traumatic. Me, I'll take a dump on your religion and then laugh at you if you don't accept it.
Oh yeah, there's a place for both things. But Spurs, you said, well, is it 50-50 or consider this. You have to be aware enough to know who you can and who you can't talk to. I know immediately who I can't talk to when they start off with the ad hom attacks, when they're all these silly things that they say when they want to just ram a question down your throat, not knowing how fallacious it is, even though you kindly try to point it out to them. All you need is 2 to 5 minutes to know that that's not the person. There's loads of other people that would like to listen to you. Just focus on those people, the people that you're trying to get. Those people aren't gettable, but that doesn't mean that there aren't other people lurking in the shadows who are interested. You're just focusing on the people that will never, ever change. But
there's a scene in The Matrix where the main character, Morpheus, walks the other main character, Neo, down a street that he's taken him into when he's in the Matrix. And he explains to Neo that all of the people that he sees are part of the system. And if you try and break them free, they'll not only reject what you tell them, they'll fight tooth and nail to stay part of the system.
Mhm.
But this is the people you're dealing with. You're dealing with the people who are so assimilated with the system that they cannot, under any circumstances, let it go. It will destroy them. If you want a telling interview, go and watch Conspiracy Cat's interviewed by Haunted House, when he pours his heart out about his fears that if he finds out that what we say is just simple fact of life reality, he might have to contemplate the fact that there's other lies in his life, that it all could be a massive lie. Well, he doesn't want to have to contemplate the reality that he's been lied to on a massive scale. He'd rather get on life and fight us. So he's one of those people in the Matrix that's going to fight tooth and nail to protect the system that's indoctrinated them. It's called Stockholm Syndrome.
Blue pill.
Couldn't have used a better analogy. I mean, that's exactly what it is. Some people hear this subject, and the Agent Smith literally comes out of them. I've seen it. I'm serious. I mean, I've seen it. When people get so agitated by the very fact that the subject is being discussed, that it's literally like somebody else comes out of them, that comes out to defend it by all means. And then at that point, you say, okay, well, I've dropped the information on you. Do with it as you will. Some people are ready for this. Some people are not. Some people will never be ready to hear this. Some people will never contemplate it at all, willingly, because they don't want to. Those people, you leave them alone. You don't. It's not your job to force people to look into this. Now, at the same time, if that information is dropped, you drop a little seed on them, and then maybe, who knows? Maybe a month later, 2 months later, something will snap, and they'll maybe start to question it. Who knows? But that's not up to you.
Can I just ask Spurs a quick question? Then there's a big announcement that John and myself are going to make for tomorrow's show. So Spurs, you're asking about what's in it for us. Well, I'm going to ask you that question. What's in it for you, converting zealots?
Well, no, we're living in a society where we're being lied to. Yeah, everyone's lying. Yeah, and people are believing a lie. It's not just a belief, is it? It's a lie. So the idea is what you're doing, what we're doing, what I'm doing is to get people to understand that they've been lied to. Okay, so we don't want to. I feel. Why would you want someone just believing a lie and just leave them to just believe a lie? Right? I think. What me personally, I feel I have to do everything I can to show them that they are believing a lie. Right? And I think there are ways to do that. I think there are ways to show somebody that, even if they are because everybody has a price, everybody wants something, and that's the same for the ball earthers. If you can
okay, I get you. You've ignored my question entirely. I'll say it again slower. What's in it for you?
I feel it's duty, like I just said. There's nothing. There's no gain. I don't see any. When you say in it for me, it's just the lie. I feel offended by the lie, so I feel that there's a duty, nothing other than just a duty within. I don't know where it comes from. Yeah.
Spurs, how did you find out Flat Earth? Did you find out Flat Earth by yourself or through an algorithm?
It was a very long time. I was looking into other conspiracies, and it was just mentioned to me. I looked into it. Doubted it, of course, and just went on that quest. So yeah, it was just brought to my attention. Yeah,
I have something to add when I get a chance.
Okay. Well, I just want to finish this up. My point is that Spurs. I know that you're a crusader for the Flat Earth community. You have this much information, and Nathan is saying, as far as you're going to be or engaging with the zealots. So, what is it to you to engage with the zealots? Are you there to convince the zealots, or are you to?
Oh no, yeah, just to show that they've been lied to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I say, you call them zealots. I mean, like I say, I see it differently. These are just people who have been lied to.
No. But some of them are zealots. All of us have been lied to, but some of them are zealots. I don't care about those.
Yeah, but even they can't prove the ball, can they? So
no.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter who. If they're an agent, if they're an actor, if they're a shield, to me, it doesn't matter. They are in the same position as everybody else. They cannot prove. So, by their fruits, by what they say, we'll be able to show. And to me, they're very useful for the public as well, because, you would have a ball earth, and you would let a guy who believes the lie and say, okay, demonstrate what you believe to somebody who's on the fence, and this for me would show that okay, this person believes the lie. So for me, they have a use, not just these people who are just against what what we say. So.
Well, something I saw the other day was very interesting because, like you, like me, like Anthony, it seems like we're kind of, sort of in the same headspace. And I was on YouTube watching my regular flat Earth stuff, and I let it run in the autoplay, and it run me right into Star Talk. And Neil deGrasse Tyson is debunking flat Earth by explaining a cracker, not really a cracker, but whatever square thing inside the heliocentric model. That's the problem right there. We're arguing for we're talking two different things, because when people are arguing against us, they're arguing against the pizza in the heliocentric model, which all of us would think is ridiculous. But they don't know that, and we don't know that we're arguing from that position either. Meanwhile, this is what mainstream is pushing out week after week. NASA just said that we were going to the moon in the next 4 years. This is the stuff that they're hearing every day, which is why we keep having these arguments every day. That's why. Not that people aren't learning. The new people keep getting bombarded with all of this stuff, and they don't see the stuff that Nathan is doing or any of you guys are doing, because all of that stuff is censored. So that's why we keep running into these arguments, because they're constantly getting bombarded.
On that note, definitely share the show. Smash that share button. Sharing is caring. And all that stuff. Are you there, John? I'm hoping we can do a little announcement.
Yes, sir.
Cool. So, drum roll. Big news, everybody. So, on Tuesday, the 4th of June, 2019, on this channel, that's Nathan Oakley 1980, we will be unveiling to the world the most accurate and comprehensive flat Earth reification model that the world has ever seen.
Amen.
Oh,
Nice.
Can we ask questions, or we should wait till tomorrow?
No questions. Wait till tomorrow.
Wait till tomorrow. Oh, okay. Excited.
But build up suspense.
Hello?
Please spread the word far and wide.
Hello? Can y'all hear me?
We all hear you, whoever that was.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
I'm still very off put by the thought of a model. I mean, because at this point, I'm like, oh, models, geez. But that's kind of what they need. It's kind of what they need.
All right, proves nothing. But nevertheless, we've got it to offer, so we're going to present it.
Nice.
It's not
To
to prove a
answer
cause.
Spurs' question of why we do this, like Spurs, have you ever planted seeds, like tomato seeds or any other type of seed?
Yes, of course.
Do they all sprout?
Not all at the same time.
But I'm saying, do you get 100% germination rate?
No, my sunflowers only got 6.
But you plant them anyway, right?
Right.
Okay, there you go. So let's not waste. I feel like we waste so much time trying to talk about why we should be coddling the ballers when we should just present the arguments, plant the seeds. If they want to accept the arguments, which are truth, then they can. If they don't, they deny reality, which they're not doing, which in their mind, it's a subconscious. They know it. Everybody knows the truth, okay? It's just a matter of you justify certain things to yourself, and it's on levels. Like, we've all done stupid shit, like we've stolen some. Oh, well, Walmart has a ton of money. It's that same exact justification. Mm-hmm. They just use it on a bigger scale.
Right. But for me, this information needs to get to what I would call the movers and shakers, because, we want the truth. So we need this sponsored, funded, whatever it needs to be done to have an exploration of some kind. This obviously can't go on. It probably will go on, but the idea is to get the lie removed. How do we do that? Just planting seeds or activism?
Just by telling the truth, stating the obvious.
Bingo. You cancel out a lie with the truth. So
Right.
if they're presenting a lie, you negate it with the truth.
There was
And that's
something
all we
else
do.
that John said in terms of, I can't remember how you phrased it, John, but you said something like, by highlighting the truth, you also highlight the preposterous nature of the lie. I can't remember how you phrased it. It was a lot more eloquent than that.
It's too early, man.
That was beautiful. That's going to go on a plaque.
Yeah, well, you need it. It was to the effect that you need a lie. You need the opposite or the antithesis, or like a canvas to paint your picture, right? You always need the juxtaposition to learn the best. You learn the best juxtaposing the truth with a lie, right? Sort of that vein.
Gotcha. Yes.
And another way that I kind of see it, last point, the globe Earth has never been proven with evidence or proof. It's been psychological. So it's always been, people have been bombarded with propaganda and, just psychological warfare. So that's how I see it. That has to be reversed with psychology. And we could present evidence, even if, they see flat planes. They see high altitude balloons. They see a flat plane.
I don't know.
Yet they deny it because it's in the mind. Yes,
Yeah,
they think when they fly in an aeroplane, they see curvature. Right?
I don't think there'd need to be any. I don't think there'd need to be any reversal of the programming. So, in order to make the programming stay in the first instance, they have to constantly reaffirm the lie. That's why you get pictures of globes everywhere, and it's in the beginning of every movie. It's predictive programming, but it's done in the respect that it's already the current paradigm. So they're not trying to convince us of something that's happening in the future, just a lie that's current in the respect to the globe. So I think, before we start exploring something that people are arguing about when it's obviously and observably flat, the first thing that you actually would need to do is just dismiss all of the current predictive programming that's out there, all of the, the reification fallacy models and globes that are constantly presented to us on an almost daily basis. So that would be the first step, I would say, rather than exploration. While I've got a lot of admiration to anybody who wants to do that, if there's a lie about what you're exploring and the nature of your reality, it should be set in stone before you start exploring it, in my opinion. But with that, I will say, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. However, if you're watching this live on Nathan Oakley 1980, unfortunately, this is where we bid you farewell. A massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in. Also, of course, a massive thank you to all of the Discord and Google Plus Hangouts on Air debating panels for making this show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum at nathanoakley.com, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!